Hello, my name is Larson, and I'm doing the video blog for our informative speech. And the first question is, what is the specific purpose of this speech project, and why is it included in our course? I think that the speech project was included in our course because it helps us learn how to find credible sources and use them in research and papers and things, so we can use that in our future and education. Excuse me. And question two is, how do you feel going into this speech presentation, and why? Uh, I felt pretty good going into mine because I've talked about it before, and it's a topic that I like and I've talked about before, and have pretty headstrong opinions on it, and didn't have any trouble finding my sources on it because I knew what I wanted to find and how I was going to get it. Question three is, did you experience any speaker anxiety? Why? And what would you do to reduce speaker anxiety next time you give a presentation? I did experience speaker anxiety, but for me, I always experience it because, well, I don't know, it's just who I am, and there really is no way to reduce speaker anxiety for me except to just do it, because I guess that's the best way for me to explain it is I have to do it to get rid of it, I suppose. Question four: was your technology adequately prepared, and what would be different? What would you do differently or better? Um, if I had a better webcam, I would definitely be using that, and if I had a better mic, I'd definitely be using that. But I think my computer and laptop are fine for using presentation, not Prezi, using presentation and editing things and finding research. Uh, Other than that, I wouldn't really change anything. Um, Five, in terms of structure and organization, what element felt natural to you? What felt odd and why? Uh, Finding, using, I should say, during the organization of it, I typically would do a thesis statement with 3 points in it, except this time I had 4 points. But my first point was more of like an introduction to the entire uh, idea of it and showing how it connected the entire uh, paper together, I should say. Uh, what felt odd was the using the big graph full of uh, points that you would organize your with oral input and other stuff. I hadn't used that before. I just wrote down a paper because just write it on paper, and that's what I always did, and that's what I've been doing, and I'll kind of prefer that, but I don't mind using the big graph. Number six, how would you consider your audience when developing your speech? Uh, when I do a speech, I think that my not students, I think my audience knows at least a little bit about what I'm talking about, or at least has heard about what I'm talking about. So I kind of can just head straight into it and talk about it, unless it goes really deep into a subject that I would describe, or yeah, would describe on and elaborate on more on that thing, and then have it, transition easier and make it easier for them to understand. Uh, but usually, my audience knows what I'm talking about, I think. Seven, what do you in your what worked in your speech and what didn't work? What areas can you target for improvement? Um, I think I found good, adequate, credible research because uh, it had, like the book says, it has good endings on it with the .gov and .edu. Some of them were less credible, but they did. Some of them had good, credible sources in them, I believe. Uh, so I think that worked, and hopefully my voice works with the recording. What areas can target for improvement? I think that I could find uh, more information, more research if I needed time, but Yeah, but I don't have much time. In 4 or 5 complete sentences, connect your learned experiences to the class reading a concept. Include one specific chapter with a page from the section while you were reading. On page 76 in our book in the speaker's primer, in chapter 7, I believe, it talks about websites that are more credible. Yeah, oh wait, chapter 6. It talks about websites that are more credible, and that was most help for me because I needed to know what sites were credible for my project and if I could use them for actual sources. So I had to find more research and papers done rather than sites that just said it and tried to prove it through their experiences. So I think that um, helped me a lot was on page 67 when it talks about credible sources. Uh, and I think that's about it. Have a nice day.